This is the Book Legion Podcast, where we review thought-provoking books to give our Legionnaires the knowledge they need to dominate the next level of their life.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Book Legion Podcast. My name is Kevin Diaz, and I'll be your host today as Tizer is out on a nice family trip in the beautiful state of California. I'll be filling in. Quick background on me, originally from Puerto Rico, moved to Texas when I was 7. I've been working with Tizer since 2018, and thanks to him, I've discovered this great habit of reading. So I'm honored to be here and guide you through a great book that I highly recommend. And that great book is one that actually just came out on June 1st. It's titled The Power of One More: The Ultimate Guide to Happiness and Success by the great and powerful Ed Mylett. I'm sure most of you have have heard of Ed, but for those of you that haven't, I'll give you a quick background on him. After high school, Ed attended the University of the Pacific, where he was a standout baseball player, also 3-time academic All-American, before unfortunately suffering a pretty serious injury that dealt essentially what was a final blow to his dreams of ever playing, Major League Baseball. And after this, unfortunately, Ed went down a path of not knowing what he was going to do, and all this stuff. And his dad was able to help him out by getting him a job at this orphanage. And he had a very profound experience while serving these 8 to 10-year-old boys. And this newfound calling of serving others is something that he would put into practice later in his life. After this, he started working with a World Financial Group, quickly rising up the ranks in that financial services industry, and Ed's built essentially a massive wealth empire with a net worth of somewhere around $450 million, so something absolutely ridiculous, right? Along with an extremely successful podcast called The Ed Mylett Show that he started around 6 years ago. So great podcast. I highly suggest you check it out if you haven't already. He's always having some amazing guests on there. So today, we're going to cover my favorite 3 chapters of the book. There are 19 total chapters. Just over 200 pages, so not a crazy long read. First up is the 3rd chapter of the book, titled One More Try. And the reason I chose this chapter is because you're able to see the value that compounding can have in your life through some of Ed's personal stories. And I think that compounding is just something that just doesn't get a lot of recognition for whatever reason as we grow up. It's not something that is ingrained in us as children to see the value of it. And whether it's learning about compounding in finances or in work ethic, it's a great concept that Ed covers, linking to many of the other lessons that you can take out of this book. So I love that this was in the beginning. Great way to start the book off after the intro. He talks about a children's party where all the kids are hitting this piñata with a stick, but nothing is happening, right? And all the kids are swinging, but no candy comes out until everyone goes, except the smallest kid, the last kid to get picked. He goes up there and swings, and all the candy comes out, right? So the question is, did the kid break the piñata, the smaller kid, right, the last kid to go? Or was it a result of the power of all the swings combined, the repetition, right? And we know the answer to that. And the lesson to take away from this is just that we have this habit of quitting early, and we have to remind ourselves you're always one away from where you want to be. For what I do in sales, I know going into it, I have to be honest with myself, it's going to take me over 7 tries on average to get a hold of someone just for the very first time. So I have to accept that. I have to be in the right mental space for that. So I got to be intentional with my efforts to get to where I want to be. Don't quit on your workouts or your business over something that you have complete control of, which is your effort. We rarely, we don't have that many things that we can say we have complete control over in our lives, and this is something that we can, our effort. So give it your all. Do that extra set at the gym. Do the extra call. All of this is just going to stack up on top of each other over and over and over again, compounding until your personal piñata gets to pop and you get the candy that changes your life at the end of the day. Next up, we have the 2nd chapter that we're covering is chapter 10, titled One More Higher Standard. I absolutely love this one. One quote on here blew my mind and put everything into perspective for me, and we'll get to that. But first, Ed starts off with a great point that your goals are ultimately linked to your standards. Your brain decides on a goal and creates standards as a way of taking thoughts and applying actions towards them. And when you set that goal, You have to decide if you can tolerate those standards that are essential to reaching that goal. Do you tolerate the business results that you're currently having? Do you tolerate how you feel when you look in the mirror and there's no one around? When it's as real as it gets, right? Just you and nobody else. You see you for who you really are. Do you tolerate that? It's only that when you can no longer tolerate these things that you're going to move forward in getting what you want, okay? Here's a quote that I was speaking about earlier. It blew my mind, okay? Quote, if you're willing to tolerate something, that's probably what you're going to get. If you don't change your standards, then your goals are irrelevant, end quote. I sat there and stared at that page for like 10 minutes after reading that because I felt like a complete, absolute bum, okay? Because I know that I could be operating at a higher level, at a higher frequency, just like we all can. No one is immune to that. So what are these standards that Ed is talking about? Well, they're the culmination of all the information that you receive daily from all aspects of your life, whether it's, relationships, personal relationships, work, social media, the books that you read, all that gets put into this mental blender of your brain. Okay, so be mindful of who and what you surround yourself with. Make that conscious decision to take the good in and throw the bad out so that your standards continue to evolve and align with your goals each and every single day as you go about your business. All this is going to dictate the set of actions that you're going to take to achieve whatever goal you have set for yourself. Be intentional with them. The more precise, the better, right? I know I go back to a lot of sales references, but that's all I know, so please bear with me, okay? But in my scenario, I have to be precise. I have to have a target number of calls, meetings in a week, or for other, people maybe not in sales, your eating habits, right? If you're trying to lose some weight, your eating habits, your reps at the gym, you get the idea. Keep track of your numbers so that these things become the standard that leads to your goal, okay? Lastly, we have the chapter 14. It's titled One More Convenience. And starting off this chapter, Ed talks about how essentially convenience and greatness cannot coexist together, okay? We have to accept that many of the things that we want out of this world, there's just going to be an inconvenience to us from the very beginning to the very end of the process. And if you can accept that, then I believe you're well on your way to great things in life, right? Remember those triumphs that you've achieved, whether they've been personal, professional, whether it was getting, your cardio up to be able to run a marathon, or you got a big promotion at work. You had to sacrifice some other parts of your life to be able to do that, right? You had to stay after work and make a couple extra sales calls that took away from other aspects of your life that you might want to be in, right? You had to dedicate extra time on the weekends to train for your marathon instead of going out with your friends, okay? So we must embrace this inconvenience as a way of life, not shy away from it, as I feel personally that society kind of tells us to these days with their modern conveniences, regarding technology in all walks of life. It's just always there, right? I visited my alma mater. I went to the University of Houston, and I went to for a networking event. I hadn't been there in a while, and I just saw, as I walking through campus, all these little robots riding around delivering foods, like these tiny little robots, and they come to you with your meal inside of them. I'm just like, come on, guys, let's get up, let's go get our food. We can do this like we've been doing for hundreds of years. Otherwise, we're going to end up like those obese people up in the Wall-E movie, if you know what I'm talking about. So those are the three chapters. I hope you enjoyed my thoughts and breakdowns on this book by Ed Mylett. I personally really enjoyed it, and there's so many lessons to cover in this book. Guys, I gave you 3, and there's 19 total, so make sure you get a copy of it. You can order it on Amazon and get it next day if you have Prime, which if you don't have Prime right now, get with the program, guys. That's the only convenient thing you should have in life is Amazon Prime. Everything else is up for discussion. So remember, the name of the book is The Power of One More, by Ed Mylett. And thank you so much for spending time with me today. I really hope you enjoyed this. And don't forget to subscribe and share this episode with your book-loving friends. This is Kevin Diaz signing off. And until next time, guys.